Oh, shalom, my friends. Shalom, my enemies, too. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, the founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And oh boy, we have a playwright. Oh boy, we have an actor. Oh boy, we have a teacher. We have a writer too, and all these things in the person that we're looking at, Andrew Baughman. Let me tell you a little bit about him. First of all, his plays include, or plays and musicals, Frosty the Abominable Snowman, very cute, and a couple of musical parodies like Breaking Hunger and the Exorcist musical Turn Off the Hell. There you go. That sounds like fun. He is the producing artistic director of a theater company in Maryland. It's the Landless Theater Company, where he has staged such musicals as Betty the Yeti, Cannibal the Musical, which is, of course, by the South Park Boys, and yours truly, Jack the Ripper. No, I'm not Jack the Ripper. I did a musical called yours. Anywho, plus he's acted in more normative things like Kiss Me, Kate at the Washington County Playhouse, and he was Sweeney in a prog rock version of Sweeney Todd. We're going to ask him about that for sure. He's also a music and drama teacher. Won't you please welcome to the neighborhood, Andrew Lloyd Baughman. Shalom, Andrew.
Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. A good Shabbos to you. So, first of all, we have to push the show that you are doing and have been doing for a couple of years now, but you're going to be bringing it to Maryland's Otto Bar, which is like this cabaret club. It's like the upstairs space up there, where you are doing a tribute to one of the greatest comic musical satirist writers of all time, the great Tom Lehrer, in a show called Tom Lehrer is Alive and Well. Actually, he's not. Tom Lehrer is alive and well and has given away all rights to his music, which he had. So, when you started doing this show when he was alive and reasonably well, how did it come to you?
Well, in the greatest, the way you expect is that a friend wrote to me and said, "Hey, I hear you're looking for royalty-free material." And, Tom Lehrer happened to give. I'm a huge fan of Tom Lehrer, and I always have been. But I was not aware that he had given away the rights to his music. And when I saw the website, it was intriguing. So, all great ideas start with what's a good cheap hit, and there it was.
Absolutely. Hey, you never, but there have been musicals even when Tom Lehrer was still getting paid, like they did Tomfoolery out in England, and then they brought it to off Broadway. So, how is your Tom Lehrer show unique?
Well, I was a fan of Tomfoolery as well, and I definitely wanted to make the show kind of its own thing. At the time when I picked up this show and when I started working on it, in the show itself, it's moderately autobiographical. It has a little bit of information about me and my connection to Tom Lehrer, but I'll just start there. That when I was 17, I used to go with my friends to a piano lounge in Gaithersburg, Maryland, called the Flaming Pit, which is no longer there anymore. And that was.
I wonder why. Why would a place called the Flaming Pit not thrive? I don't know. Yeah.
It was actually a very good restaurant, and they had a nice little piano lounge in the back. And the better question was, what were a group of 17-year-olds doing going there?
All right.
And the owner was a very flamboyant man, and his name was Armand. And he did not like us. He was like, get out of my establishment, that sort of thing. You can come when the pianist is playing 9 o'clock at night. I don't want you here before 9. So we would show up at 9. And we'd go back into the smoky room because rooms were smoky back in those days. This was about 1994, 1995, that time period. There was always a different pianist every night, but my favorite pianist was a guy named Blake Pace, who's I think still touring around and still does some stuff down in North Carolina and in this area. And he really introduced me to Tom Lehrer. There are a few of his jokes. I mean, the thing I loved about Tom Lehrer was the kind of the timelessness of it, and how that Blake could work modern day jokes into his music and kind of put his own spin on things. And there's certainly a couple of moments that I have stolen not only from Tom Lehrer but also from Blake Pace in my show. But that was where I really discovered the love of Tom Lehrer, and it was really it was like a circus in the room, because it was like at 9 o'clock, all these people from their from their weight show actors from their weight shifts and their community theater shows and that sort of thing would come and show up, and musicians, and people would just break out their instruments, and it wasn't just Tom Lehrer, of course, but it was like this whole 2 hours of a pianist playing, and people playing instruments and singing along, and it was just like a really magical experience. And we all sang along, and people don't do that very often nowadays. Like we don't have like a sing along kind of thing. So that was part of the impetus for this show. I wanted to recreate that atmosphere, but at the same time, I also just nowadays comedy has taken on a different tone, I guess is what I would say. And I was wondering, I was curious. It started almost as an experiment. Some of Tom Lehrer's music, has it become dated? Has it become offensive? So it was kind of pushing that. That was what really started the stage production of this, was like we're asking the question, what is the line nowadays? Like comedians, they go right up to the line of what is between what's funny and what's the line, the goalpost moves constantly.
There's an envelope. Do you push the envelope? I kick through the envelope and go into a whole manila folder there. But is there a Tom Lehrer song that is cringy in 2026 that wasn't in 1958, 1968, whatever?
I wasn't around back then, so I can't tell you for that for sure. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to say I Want to Go Back to Dixie is probably it's
but it's making fun of the KKK culture. It
is, but in this day and age, in this day and age, there's just people. The comedy is just taking a different turn. Comedy is almost you have to really state your viewpoint up front, so that there's no ambiguity of what you mean when you sing a song. So that was the one for me, that was the one that I was like, will audiences still laugh at it? It turns out they will. It's right in my show.
Make it work. That's what artists do. They look at the difficult thing and they say, oh, it's a challenge. We'll do it. We'll finesse it. And it is a funny song.
So as far as my show goes, after I've given you all that background, it's kind of like it's a cabaret, and it's a tribute show, but it's also sort of a musical theater piece as well. And it has a story, and I play a character because I needed to frame this somehow. So I play a character who's known as Professor. It's spelled Professor Charles Chucklenut, but it's pronounced Professor Charles Schukelno, and he's very, he is a professor at Dundalk Community College, which is a mythical, which is a mythical college in our area, and we came up with the name for that by kind of crowdsourcing and saying, what's one place that everybody in Maryland can laugh about? It's like, what's the place that everybody makes fun of? And I got to tell you, in that poll, it was kind of neck and neck between Dundalk and Glen Burnie, I believe.
Oh, Glen Burnie, yeah.
I think we decided for people who don't know Maryland, Dundalk just sounded funnier, so that was just a funny sounding name. So yes, he's community college sociology professor at Dundalk Community College, and the conceit of the show is that he is presenting his PhD. His dual PhD and MFA musical comedy jury for an online jury at George Santos online school. so that's a lot to say. So when the audience comes in, they see a screen, and it's very professorial, and I have all this technology set up, where, I may be conveniently reading my music, but also I'm Skyping to the panel at George Santos Online University, and I have my assistant who's also on another device and that sort of thing. And it's and they themselves are the studio audience for this kind of event that's going on, because they're part of the experiment. Is the dissertation is about pushing that line, what is funny today, through what is the intersection of sociology and musical theater with Tom Lehrer's music, and the question we're asking is what is still funny to today's audiences? Where's that line? So throughout the night we go and we try to we push that envelope and see where we can go. Let me guess.
The one that works that you never have to worry about and is going to be explosively funny, even to people who've heard the song 10 million times. You got Poisoning Pigeons in the Park.
Yes.
Right? Which automatic, you can count on it.
We have songs that I put Tom's songs into different categories, and I say he has the silly songs. Okay, so I do start out with the silly songs. Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. I Hold Your Hand in Mine. the hunting song, that sort of thing. They're just zany songs, okay? And then and then he has a number of songs that I call the songs that I mean, informally I call them the songs that don't quite work today because they're dated in a way. Like you don't quite understand what they meant. Like there's a song, Whatever Happened to Hubert.
Yeah,
Hubert Humphrey.
The Werner Braun song could, iffy on the line or not.
Those are the war songs, and I'll tell you, I didn't really get into the war songs, but I'm starting. The show is ever evolving, and with current events, the war songs are going to be making an appearance soon. Maybe by the end of this month. So we'll see.
Or the Alma Werfel song probably needs some explanation.
Exactly. There's a George Wallace song, So I've taken those songs, and those songs I've kind of updated a little because it turns out, Hubert Humphrey was LBJ's vice president, and he was somebody who was kind of forgotten and kind of left on the sideline. And I don't know who would there be nowadays who's like that. Is there a vice president in the recent past who just disappeared? And we
Dan
don't know.
Quayle, hello, Dan Quayle. Yes,
exactly right. So yeah, there are those kind of songs as well. And then there are the songs that are just I think like the I Want to Go Back to Dixie, that just are they still tasteful? We have to ask. So but in the vehicle of the show, I've kind of placed them in a distasteful context.
No, hold on. Now this is hilarious. You put "I Hold Your Hand in Mine" in the silly category.
Oh yes,
as opposed to the horrible, disgusting, tasteless category, because there's something about making fun of Southern people. Oh, we can't do that. But a guy who cuts off his woman's hand and kisses it and blood is no, this is just silly. It's nice. People like this.
That's where we are in life now. I'm afraid. So yeah.
Did you grow? Are you a Marylander from the beginning? Where did you grow up?
I'm initially from Pittsburgh, but yeah, about my later grade school years, I did move to the Gaithersburg, Germantown area of Montgomery County, and so I would say I'm probably a Marylander at this point.
So tell us a little bit about being in Maryland, because this show emanates. You can smell it, and even though I live in Long Island, a lot of times I do this show where Dave does this program, which is in Maryland, in northern Maryland. So give us a little bit of your overall thoughts about Maryland, even, God forbid, I should say Glen Burnie.
Maryland, well, for me, Maryland, it's been expensive. So I would say, so over the years, it's not the place you want to live when you say, hey, I'm going to go into the performing arts, for many reasons, not just because, New York is the place where you think you want to be, or LA, because there are a lot more opportunities there. There are actually some good opportunities here in DC, in the DC theater circuit. But it's difficult to make a living as a perforing artist.
There's a job open at the Kennedy Center at the moment. I don't know if you've heard this.
Many jobs I hear. Yeah, it's they're opening like they're just popping up. No, yeah, it's difficult to live in this area, I think, and be a performing artist. But we do it, and my wife is also more of a director, and she helped direct the show. And kind of helped me with writing it a bit. And we live in Frederick, Maryland, with our now grown daughter and cats.
Now, did your daughter also go into the showbiz?
She dabbled in it a little bit. I think more because oddly, I felt like my parents were kind of pushing against that because they were not from the arts world. And I wouldn't say that we encouraged it necessarily, but I think because we were in the arts world, I think my daughter kind of dabbled in that a little bit. But now she's moving into kind of more audio design and that sort of thing. So it's kind of more of a tech.
So she wants to make a real living. God bless her.
Exactly, right.
And I do have to ask, and forgive me, your name intrigues me for two different reasons. First of all, Baughman, Baughman. Are you, and again, a word I don't really want to say, German? Are you Jewish at all? Is there any, what is that? Or is it Englishish?
My heritage, as far as I know, it's German. But my grandfather, the question that you're really asking is, no, my parents had no idea who Andrew Lloyd Webber was. I was named after Maurice Lloyd Baughman, my grandfather.
Oh.
So, he was born in 1896, so he was fairly old when I was born, and that's a big generation gap there, right? That's when you think about it. So,
Yeah.
and to be honest, I don't know much about our heritage prior to him because he was kind of the line where it stopped. But I know that our family had been in the country a long time, and I kind of, I'm not Jewish, but I kind of feel like I probably have Jewish heritage somewhere genetically in there.
Well, if you're doing Tom Lehrer songs who are now officially Jewish adjacent, you're in
Right.
the theater, so either you're going to be Jewish or gay, or
Right.
adjacent to one of those two. Well, we
Right.
know you got gay, but so you know.
But I would say I've probably been adjacent to both. So,
So speaking of Jews, going back to Jews, and a little adjacent to Tom Lehrer, I don't know if you know that he and Stephen Sondheim went to summer camp together.
I did, yes.
They were friends there, and Lehrer had tremendous admiration for Stephen Sondheim. So you were part of, in fact, you played Sweeney in a major production of Sweeney Todd, but a rather different production of Sweeney Todd. Can you tell us about this, please?
Yeah, I actually, well, yes, I played Sweeney Todd in the Sweeney Todd Prague. It's called Sweeney Todd Prague Metal version. I played Sweeney Todd, but I was also one of the arrangers in the arranging team for the production. And I guess I was the one who set the thing in motion. My wife is actually the heavy metal fan, and she's worked. She had started kind of I call it her genre of heavy metal theater that she started directing with our company. And I was just looking for something to adapt. And as a teacher, I had this funny story that I remember doing a workshop with somebody from Music Theater International who they kind of license all of Steve Sondheim's work. And I just remembered this from, 20 years ago. I remembered him saying, that Steve Sondheim created this program they called Broadway Junior, where they do music for musicals for younger, kids,
Yeah.
elementary school, middle school ages. And he tells this anecdote of how Steve walked into the meeting and he said, I really care about younger generations, learning musical theater, and I want to be the first to put one of my shows out for elementary and middle school productions, and I'm going to give it to you. You can do whatever you want with it, and it's Sweeney Todd. Which incidentally, side note, is my favorite musical of all time anyway. But of course they laughed and they're like, Mr. Sondheim, that's not. Well, we don't know that's the best one to start with. So he wound up giving Into the Woods, and they did.
Well, yeah,
They did the first act of Into the Woods as the kind of the pilot for this program or whatever.
In fact, it's probably best that they didn't do Pacific Overtures.
Right.
But there's all these yellow-faced, like little white kids going around, welcome to Kanagawa, bring in the whores. No, it's just not gonna.
But just in the back of my mind, it was just sitting there thinking, boy, I bet you if you asked Sondheim, could I do something with one of your musicals, he probably wouldn't care what you do with Sweeney Todd. And it was true. So I sent a letter to his I guess his agent or his lawyer or somebody like that. And it was just, a letter explaining my idea or whatever. And he gave the permission. And people, I mean, who was I? People were just like, oh my gosh, how did this guy get permission to do this? People have been asking to do crazy stuff like this forever. And what was really amazing was really close to as we got closer to the opening of the show, as we started moving into rehearsal, I just had an email pop up from Steve Sondheim, and I was like, "Whoa!" So I never thought to reach out to him. So we developed an e relationship, an e friendship, an e mentorship, and it was that was to me, I as a musical theater student, because I went to school for musical theater, and that was what I wanted to do. But I feel like at that age, and this was what, maybe 8-10 years ago, something like that I felt like I reached the pinnacle at that point. Like, you could not go any further once you got to work with your ultimate hero. Pass that he said, call me Steve, and he said, you pass back and forth material, and even when he said he hated something, you felt so honored. I hate what you did with the song
So
Joanna.
did you play him? Did you record like MP3s or tracks of the show and play for him the heavy metal prog sounding versions of the songs in Sweeney?
We did. We sent him demo recordings. We also sent him scores, so he just read the music and kind of followed along that way. And he was meticulous, and every note has to be in a certain place, like very open to interpretation as to what style you set the music in. But we had one arranger who wanted to change one note in the melody of Joanna, and he was like, no, that has to stay. So yeah. I mean, his responses. I mean, he really, really poured over stuff and really put in a lot of his time to help develop the work. And we do have we performed several years ago. We were nominated for 3 Helen Hayes awards down in DC. And the show is still in rep. When Steve passed away, I guess he told his attorney that, you know, we're allowed, only our company is allowed to continue doing work with this piece, but we're allowed to tour it. We're allowed to create a cast album recording of some sort. So these are all things that are kind of in the work for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, now you did another, and I don't necessarily have it in front of me, but you did another prog rock. It's not a parody. It's just a version of another major musical. And I'm forgetting which one it was.
Mystery of Edwin Drood by Rupert
Drood.
Holmes.
Yes, yes. How did that? I assume that Rupert Holmes gave his imprimatur on that, and how did that go?
That's another one that's kind of hanging in rep. You know, we performed it. We did kind of the first workshop. COVID hit at some point here, and then we kind of got derailed from all of that stuff. But we're getting back to it. We actually have another. I can't tell you what it is, but we have another one that's in the works, kind of in the pipeline to do. But yeah, Rupert was actually. I mean, he was a lot more accessible. I mean, he was really. He's just a great guy. I was teaching a summer camp. This is the kind of guy he is. I was teaching a summer camp, and we were doing his musical Curtains, and it wasn't even my company. And I just said to him, I said, you know, the kids would really love if you would zoom in one day and do like a little talk back about your show. And he did. He took a whole afternoon to do that with us, and you know, he's just the kindest man and such a brilliant artist.
All I gotta say is, if you want to get a Kander and Ebb show, you better start soon. Get on the email immediately. You know, you missed the boat with Jerry Herman, so now's the time.
Right. Well, we'll probably be going to Lin-Manuel next, so he'll be our next one.
Of course. So, by the way, we're talking with Andrew Lloyd Baughman, and he's talking about this theater company that he is part. Well, you run a theater. This is how I don't know when you sleep. Because you've got a family, you got a grown kid now, granted, but you've got all this going on. You run a theater company, you act, you direct, you do these shows, you write plays, you've written a couple of friggin' books, and you teach full time. Is this true?
Yeah, I mean, it's just called the hustle. You know, it's how you make a living. You know, and if you think like Rupert Holmes is somebody you should really talk to. I mean, he is doing so much all the time. Like, it's like everybody at every level. I'm blessed to be doing what I love full time, whether it's teaching students in the public school or whether you know, working on my own in my own company. But it's a lot of work. You gotta move. You gotta keep moving all the time.
I mean, I wasn't even joking. Where do you find the time? You just jump from one thing to another, and then 3 hours of sleep a night. Even teaching kids and doing homework. Are you teaching drama or music, or what are you teaching them there?
This year I'm teaching theater with Frederick County Public Schools, but I've bounced around. I've been an English teacher, I've been an orchestra teacher, I've been a chorus teacher. I kind of go where they need me, but yeah, you know, that's what it's all about when you're building a career in this field. You know, you look at the times of the day. You know, if you're a non-equity performer like I am, and I have a non-equity company, you know, we tend to rehearse in the evenings. We don't rehearse in the daytime, so you have the daytime hours open to teach. You probably make a better living that way than if you were working doing an equity job during the daytime. And then, you know, you have your evenings free to do all sorts of other stuff. It's just like scheduling is your life. You just have to know how to do it.
Do you go to the theater? Do you see the shows like Everyman and The Only and the other theaters in and around Baltimore and DC too?
Yeah, I actually I made a pact with myself that I wanted to see more theaters several years back. So I started writing reviews for my friend who passed away, Joel Markowitz, who was like
on this program.
The spirit of DC theater. I mean, the guy, talk about somebody with energy. I mean, my gosh, he was doing so much all the time. But yeah, I started writing for his website, a couple blogs. He moved for a couple different blogs, and I was writing for him, and that got me out to see a lot of the shows. I'm a huge fan of really most of the theaters. Right in Frederick, where I live, there's Maryland Ensemble Theater. That I don't know if people in Baltimore are aware of it, but it's a great theater right there. It's an ensemble-based theater, a group of like 30 artists together working there, and they have their own theater space, actually 3 different theater spaces. I worked with them several years ago, and they're still going strong. And then in, you know, the DC area, you know, of course, Signature Theater, I think, is like the mecca of musical theater, you know, almost anywhere. I love their work so much. And Arena Stage, Shakespeare Theater. There's so much good stuff in DC. I don't know. I don't get out to Baltimore as much, but I know Center Stage is out there, and I think they have some good work out there.
So the theater bug, since your parents kind of pushed you away from it,
Mhm.
was there a production you saw either as a child or in high school or even maybe later than that? Was there something that you just went that blew your mind either as just a person or as someone going, music, arts, theater, that's where I'm going?
There were two that stand out in my mind. One was when I was very young in Pittsburgh. My parents took me to a production of A Christmas Carol that was in a black box theater. I think it was the Pittsburgh Playhouse, and I was mesmerized by the fact that they had no costumes, no set. It was just a black box theater, and absolutely everything in the production was pantomimed. Everybody was just wearing plain like black t-shirts and to my like what was it, kindergarten, first grade mind, that just wow, like because that's I would say maybe to my fault, my company will say that like that is my MO in theater. Like I am so if as far as design goes, like I think your imagination can do so much more than any budget can do with any sort of scenic design or production spectacle or things like that. If you find a theatrical way to do things using pantomime or minimalism, it's really amazing. So that was the first. The second one was Mystery of Edwin Drood. I saw a production of that. That was actually a student production by a group called Wildwood Summer Dinner Theater. That was a student-run group that was in Montgomery County that a lot of my friends were involved in. And I went to see it, and I was, the multiple endings and just like the overall chaos of that show. Like I fell in love with it. So, and that was really inspirational to me about a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do as well. And helped with the connection when I met Rupert. I legitimately like since I was 16, like really was into his work.
And as you were talking before, a lot of people, when they make the choice that you made as a career, they go to New York. Why did you stay in the D.C., Maryland, Pittsburgh-ish area as opposed to taking that bus and getting out of the Port Authority and saying, I'm going to be a star?
That's a great question. I actually did go to Philadelphia, the University of the Arts, which is closed down in Philadelphia. That I did like my first year of college there, and that was a place where people were training to go to New York. And I did very well academically at that school, but I felt like I don't know, I felt a little out of place just in the school environment in general. And I remember going to, it was very expensive. I remember going to the advisor, Paul Berman, and asking him, basically for more money. I was like, could you give me a little, I mean, I've got more than a 4.0 here. I was like, can you give me more money? And he said, this isn't the right school for you. he's like, this is a school for people who just want to be actors. He's like, you want to be a playwright and you want to be a director and you want to teach, you want to do all this other stuff. He's like, someday this school will be there, but not today. So he wrote me a very nice letter of recommendation, and I transferred down to College Park. And simultaneously, I was working, I was just building my own theater company. I think at some point there was just something about, I always say I'd rather be the artist than the paint. You know what I mean? Like being the one holding the paintbrush to me is so much more important.
So how much you don't do as much acting now? So mostly you're concentrating on writing, arranging, teaching.
Oh, I mean, I act. Yeah. I just did up here in Frederick. I just did Lion in Winter and played the bastard as King Henry, and yeah, I'm doing Man of La Mancha, which is another one of my dream shows in Frederick, coming up in May, Memorial Day weekend. So yeah, I keep up with the acting too. So I think you have to when you're teaching acting. I think you have to keep your foot in there. But I'm certainly not doing 8 shows a week or anything like that. So.
And how do you teach young kids a lot of it? I mean, you're teaching drama to, I mean, as you said, drama and theater. How do you wrangle this generation to get them off their friggin' telephones? And I'm holding up a phone that looks black against black. That's really helpful. But how and behavior issues post COVID. How do you get them to pay attention, stay attentive, and not be crazy?
Well, that's an interesting question too. So I do work with really all ages. I'm a high school theater director for Montgomery County, and those students are very, very motivated. They come after school, and they want to be there. So they've already got the bug. They've already been bitten. In Frederick County, I work with middle school. I teach middle school elective this year, and I find for them it's really like sometimes I learn more from them than they learn from me sometimes, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I have to listen to them and I have to just see what's interesting to you guys, because that's really what theater is about. It's about engaging. It's about the engagement between the artist and the audience, and it's like they both have to be interested and invested in what's going on. So, here I am, almost 50 years old. I can't relate to a 13-year-old in this way. So I can't pick out material necessarily that they're going to be really excited about. So sometimes I step back and I'm like, what do you guys like? What do you want to do? What do you want to work on? And sometimes, a lot of times it's original work. It's, writing original films or skits or something like that. And they write their own material and they love seeing each other read each other.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I was just going to say, oh, they're all going to say Hamilton and that. But no, that's very, very cool. Let me ask, what is the worst theater experience that you've ever had? Like a production that just everything went wrong, or it's just a disaster?
Wow, I don't even know if I could say. I don't even know if I could think of one, because I was even just telling an actor the other day, a colleague of mine. I was saying, it gets, especially with the Tom Lehrer show, I live for when things go wrong, because I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I've toured all up and down the coast, and it's a pretty liberal show, and I've done it in Jacksonville, Florida. Like unexpected things happen in different places, but I've gotten to the point where I live for it. Like, just in the other show, one of my some of the equipment I was using just fell. And I had to figure a way. To deal with that while I was still going on with the show. But it's like kind of stuff like that. Almost after a while, it's what breaks up the monotony of doing the same show all the time. And it's a challenge. It's like, how am I going to deal with this when something goes wrong? How am I going to fix that problem? So I don't know if I really answered your question, but that's all that's coming to mind at the moment.
No, it's actually a wonderful answer. Do you have? In my head, I would think something Pirandello or some weird German expressionistic thing, but like a favorite play, or you're going to shock me and go either a Shakespeare thing or an Arthur Miller.
A favorite play? Well, I already told you Sweeney Todd. I think Sweeney Todd is that's probably my favorite play, but it's a musical. So if I were to say a play, and it's hard to say. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I couldn't give you one today. I'd have to think about
it. Fair enough. Well, you have written books, but one of the things that not only have you actually written plays and musicals, but you've written books about putting on school plays, right? And how to do that, and how parents or educators should do that. So one thing you said is make sure to listen. Make sure that you listen to what they want to do and what's interesting them. And what is a bit of advice or two that you would give to someone who's faced with the challenge of, by the end of the semester, we've got to have a play up or a musical?
So the two books I've written, one of them is really directed to the stage parent. Okay, for if they have a kid like I was, like somebody who really wants to grow up to be an actor, how do you deal with that, and how do you best support them? And then the other book I have is about, we have a school, we don't have a theater program at all. I may just be an English teacher, I may be a parent, part of the PTA or something. How do I jumpstart this program? And it's just it just gives like a step-by-step kind of guide to what you do. And it really does start with looking at your community. What is your community? What is your talent pool in your community? What is your audience of your community? What's going to interest them? And what can you afford? And where do you start? And who do you bring in to help? Do you direct this play yourself, or do you bring in an outside director and pay them a stipend or something like that to do that? That's a big first question that you have to ask, and there's no easy answer to that. So yeah.
And can I ask, have any of your students, to your knowledge, gone on to serious careers in the arts? Have they been on Broadway? Have they done? Or I know Broadway is not just the be all and end all. Have they gone to California or something? But any names that we recognize, or people who've just had really solid careers?
Yeah, well, I don't know about names you'd recognize. I've certainly worked with some young actors who've gone on, and boy, I'm not going to remember his name off the top of my head, but everybody will know who I'm talking about. If you're a Star Wars fan and you watch Rogue One, not Rogue One, Andor, okay, there's a guy. I should look him up. if you're not a Star Wars fan, you may not watch it. But there's his name is escaping me right now, but he was one of my. I played Captain Von Trapp. I was incidentally, to my knowledge, the youngest Captain Von Trapp in the history of DC professional theater. Back in,
You were younger than Liesel, so that's a.
I literally was younger than Liesel.
Were you really?
I was, yeah. It was at the Lazy Susan Dinner Theater, and I was 20 years old, I believe. And the bartender, I've always looked older, and I did a good job making up. I remember the bartender carding me to prove that I was under 21 because he could not believe it. But anyhow, that production, yeah, it was the boy who played Kurt, one of the youngest sons. He's gone on to win. Boy, I feel horrible that I can't remember his name because he's won Obie Awards and he's like, or not the Olivier Award in
London?
England.
Whoa, wow, London? Oy. Okay.
Yeah, he's
we'll all look it up. We're all going to see.
Look him up.
I can do an IMDb right now because we're both on the computer here. Well, actually, let me do this. Hold on. My people can wait. So, what was the name? It was Star Trek what? Argo?
No. Look up Andor.
All right. Cast. Star Andor cast. A stellar ensemble. Diego Luna?
Not him. No.
He's not Stellan Skarsgård.
No.
Is he Genevieve O'Reilly? Did he have a sex change? No. Adria Arjona?
Nope.
Kyle Soller?
That's him, Kyle Soller.
Yeah. All right. Kyle Soller. Oh, the
Kyle
one and only
Soller.
Kyle Soller.
He probably wouldn't. He would not remember me at all, I bet. But because I think he had to have been 12 or 13 or 14 at that time. But yeah, but I'm so amazed to see him take off, and I remember him being, I always tell my students this, I was like, the most famous actor I know, I met when he was, I think, 12 years old, and he was working professionally, and he was one of the most professional people in the room because he was a swing. He would do both of those sons, Friedrich and Kurt, and, he would just come in and just be on point and know what he was doing. And I was like, guys, half the job is not being talented. It's about coming in the room and being, professional and exceeding the expectations of what people have of you as a kid actor, And Kyle Soller, that was absolutely my memory of him, was just him being completely on point at all times.
Now, can I ask, let me remind people, because we've been talking with Andrew Lloyd Baughman, whom you can see and hear the hilarious songs of Tom Lehrer as he does them. And by the way, I don't know if you make it clear, but it is still a thing where you're at the piano, you're singing, but there are kind of guests or audience members coming up and doing songs too. Is that part of the thing or not?
Only in Baltimore has that ever happened. I do, believe it or not, I do have a application where you can apply to sing a song as a guest member of the Dundalk Community College Chorus, the Warblers. But I will, and that has happened in Baltimore. I have had people apply and do that. But also, it's just a general sing along. So if you know the words to the Tom Lehrer songs, everybody's free to sing along. We have a great time with the song Lobachevsky. If you're familiar with that particular song, where I'm always amazed by the audience. There's always an audience member who knows all the words to Minx Pink,
Yeah. I'll never forget the day. Yeah, but do you force them to do the elements?
I do not. That one I take for myself, and if somebody sings along with me, I do it faster than they could possibly do it. They try sometimes. They try.
So everybody, you've got to go see. The show is called Tom Lehrer is Alive and Well and is giving away all rights to his music, and it is happening on March. That's the one thing I didn't write down. Is it March 30th or 31st?
31st. And Rabbi, I have a question that only you can answer. Okay, so I have this is my third time at the Auto Bar, and believe it or not, it is my favorite place to play on the East Coast. Incidentally, if you like the show and you can't make the Auto Bar, I play almost every Sunday in Frederick at a place called Frederick Magic Lounge. Okay, it's a small, very intimate theater. Yes, Frederick Magic Theater, I believe it's called, and the Frederick Magic Theater and Lounge. Okay, and there's a magician who works there all the time. Jeff, his name is Jeff, and he does a show every Saturday night. You also want to check him out. But yeah, Sundays at 2. Come out there. You can get great lunch in Frederick. It's a great time to come out if you can't make this particular show.
Are you doing Lehrer songs? Or are you piano barring? I mean, what are you doing?
It's the show. It is the show is show. Same show. But I'm coming out to the Auto Bar on the 31st. So my question for you, this is, as I was saying, this is my third time coming here. So I've made a few fans, a few friends. There's a guy, I don't want to reveal his full name, but his first name is Bill. Okay, and Bill.
Oh, I know him.
He saw the show and loved it in Baltimore at the Auto Bar, and he wanted to throw a 75th birthday for himself. Okay, and he has tried to do this, but the weather. He asked me to come and play as the event at his show, and the weather rained out or snowed out the time that he was supposed to do it. Just can't find a date to do it. So I told him, I said, Bill, come to this show. We're going to make it your birthday. We're going to sing happy birthday. We're going to do all this stuff. And he said, it's the night before Passover. I can't do it. So I need to ask you, can you give him permission? Is he allowed on the 31st to come out, and his friends, are they allowed to come out and see the show on that night?
Well, wait, when you say it's the night before Passover, is it the first Seder night? I mean, I need to check this. Hold on.
That I don't know. I know it's the 31st. I don't know specifically where that. He said the night before Passover was what he said. So
let me see. Well, Passover starts on the evening of Wednesday the 1st. So here's the deal. The night before, totally clear. If you want, what you do is around the auto bar, take a piece of bread and put little pieces of it on the windows. Are there any windows in the auto bar?
There are, yes. Yeah.
Put some bread on the windowsills. Have the 75-year-old guy go find them with a feather. While you're singing happy birthday, you can open the door of the auto bar, let somebody in. He can be Elijah, so you can get that done a day early. Yes, he has my blessing to come to your show on Tuesday the 31st at the Auto Bar in Baltimore to see the Tom Lehrer show. And by the way, for tickets, yes, you can go to theautobar.com, or you can go to Andrew's very special website, Jesus Christ here, tomlehrershow.card with 2 R's, .co. I'll say that again. Tom Lehrer, and it's Lehrer, Tom Lehrer Show .card, not C-A-R-D. Oh, no. What? Why not C-A-R-D? Why the hell did you throw the other R in there? Anyway, CARRD.co but also you can go to his own website, ANDREWLLOYDBAUGHMAN.com, BAUGHMAN.com. He gave me there was another website that you gave me off the air there. What the hell was that?
Landlesstheatercompany.org. Landlesstheatercompany.org.
Landless,
with an
like,
R-E, yes.
Without land, theatercompany.org. So my last question for Andrew is, speaking of Jewish people and young actors, Timothy Chalamet just gotten a little bit of hot water this past week because he very casually, almost out of context, was talking about the lively arts. And some of them he's saying are not so lively anymore, that people really have given up on opera specifically and ballet. And so all these opera and ballet people are saying, oh, it's not true, and it's so lively, and it's this, and we have 5 subscribers. How can you say? So how would you defend not only opera and cabaret, but the performing arts? How would you say to a person who says, what do we need theater for? What would you say?
I would say it's such a personal experience when you go into the theater or the opera or a dance, a ballet. You're going to have a personal connection to that, and you will never see it coming. And when I used to write for Joel, I would go see plays that I would never in a million years go to see, and it's amazing what will resonate with you personally. So you got to give it a chance. You got to engage. That's what life is about, I think.
Well, we have been delighted to be engaged to, even almost married to, Andrew Lloyd Baughman. Go on March 31st to the 75th birthday party,
Bill,
which also happens to be a Tom Lehrer show. Tom Lehrer is alive and well and is giving away all rights to his music. Thank you, Andrew. It's just absolutely wonderful. Wishing you much more teaching, much more theater, much more music, much more good times with your wife and your growth. I mean, just all good things, and maybe a little bit of relaxation. How do you relax? Is there a moment when you are not working on something?
Sometimes grading papers is relaxing.
You should be Jewish. You really should be Jewish. Andrew Baughman, I wish you a most happy Passover, or for you, Easter, and thank you for being with us. Shalom to you.
Thank you. You too.